Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Popcast. Whenever you're listening to this, whether it be live or a VOD, Twitch or YouTube, or Spotify, while you're still trying to search for a tricolor match, getting upset because a casual said anything on Twitter, punting a football directly into the ass of your teammate, whatever it is that you're doing right now, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to this. Unless I don't. Hey, this was a very last minute thing. Normally we go live 15 minutes beforehand. Went live 5 minutes beforehand. Why? Because I procrastinate, as I typically do, as I have been my entire life. I got through college doing homework the day before it was due. The overlay stuff Carrot sent me for the guest screen. Should have put it in last night before I went to bed instead of having to rush to do it when I get home. We'll get through it today. It's a new feature, but don't think less of a special shout out to Carrot, the official producer of the Popcast, as far as I'm concerned, and a big thanks for helping me out last minute there. We'll get through this episode. I see this, before we get into anything, I see this a lot from competitive players whenever you're on a Splatfest team that loses. How did we lose? I won every single game I played. I beat the crap out of Team Gear was horrible. Every time I played them, I beat the snot out of them. Okay, I want you guys to realize something. You played in 0.0001% of all of the games that took place. I promise you, you had next to no impact on the grand scheme of Splatfest, okay? And also keep in mind, there's competitive players on all three teams doing the same exact thing you are, canceling each other out. It doesn't... You had no impact on the grand scheme of things. I promise you. Just because you won all your games doesn't mean you did anything in the grand scheme of it. I just see so many of those tweets, and it's just like, do you just not aware of anything with this game? 0.1% of the scene is casual or is competitive. 99.9% of the people that play this game are casual you've never heard of. And we're driving them away by telling them they suck. Congratulations to Team Gear. I looked it up. I believe October the 14th is when you guys are going to die because you're not going to have any food to eat on your deserted island. So be it. But if you feel like that's the way to go, then, I'm not going to stop you. Gear is kind of open-ended, isn't it? It could mean anything. Maybe you're probably bringing gear to get food, I guess. Maybe you're bringing gear that's going to entertain you and have fun with. So maybe that's why Shiver won. News of tournaments that may be of interest to the casual listener of the podcast. The Launch Point Draft Cup number 11 is going to be on Sunday, October the 2nd. They usually close registration for that the week before. And is this the week before? I think it is. So maybe your registration might be over. If it's not, sign up for it. And if you can't play in it, go watch it. Go watch the stream. Support our tournaments. The 11th Launch Point Draft Cup. It's been a while since I've talked about a Launch Point Draft Cup, but I'm hoping the pickup team names are going to be stellar this time around. And hope is irrational. 20XX, the major rearing its ugly head yet again, going to be streamed on Dapple Productions. That is going to be October 15th and 16th. The starting prize pool for that is $400. A 2-day weekend major event. Make sure you sign up for that. That'll be the first pretty decent online tournament that we're going to have in Splatoon 3. I think there's some rumors that something else might pop up, but I don't think anything's going to pop up before October 15th and 16th. So all eyes will be on 20XX, and hopefully that's going to be pretty cool. I believe the last one went over pretty well. So we'll see how that goes. Low Ink dates will be out next week. We always release those on the first of the month, and the second if we're a little behind the times on things. But if you look at the calendar and you realize, 20XX is on the 15th and the 16th, Low Ink doesn't usually run the weekends before that. Could it possibly be the weekend after 20XX? You'll have to wait and see. Mistranslation of the localization team. Must be an island vacation. Why would you? Okay. Yeah, that in that context, things are a little bit different. Because if you're just bringing fun to a deserted island, you're just pretty much admitting, yeah, I'm going to die, but I'm going to go out having a good time. Today, we are going to chat with Spoon, who I am convinced a lot of you people that have joined the scene in the past couple of years have no idea who that is. But for somebody like me who grew up in BNS, I am so thrilled to be given. I'm really excited about this one. Not that I'm not excited about the other people I've had on the podcast before, but this one means something special to me because when I was a little baby Low Ink player like you guys were, all we had was BNS back in the day, and now I get to talk to one of the TOs from it. A bunch of other cool stuff. Spoon's got a lot of great takes, so this is going to be a fun one. But first, there is a lot of things that we need in this community. Or need, maybe want. I don't know if we necessarily need things specifically. We want sponsors. We want more tournaments to have prize pools. We want more production folks. People that are good at production stuff is very hard to come by, and I feel like IPL has soaked up all the ones that we can find in this scene, and the ones that do production stuff for IPL are also doing production stuff for everybody else. So good production folks, very hard to find. Actual teams, tired of announcing the names and the weekly recap of people who win tournaments that are just pickup teams. Having actual teams would be nice. Sindow's on an actual team now. Doesn't mean we're not going to see more pickups in the future, though. What we don't need in this scene, though, is pretty obvious, and I think we're all on the same page about this. Jackasses, transphobes, racists, homophobes, pedos, horrible people all around, some potentially straight-up criminals. We don't want these people in the community. I think everybody's on board with that. I don't think there's anybody who wants people like that in any community. So how do we get rid of them? How do we figure out who all these people are and get them out of the community? How do we do that? One thing I've noticed from the elegant situation in the Smash Brothers scene, information that came out during that whole, where everybody was just speaking out about their situation revolving elegant, is that information is often held in when there is something that happens to a victim. It's not something where people usually just come out and immediately say, hey, this happened to me yesterday. It's, hey, this situation happened to me months ago, a year ago, a long time ago. And it's not just in like esports, it's everywhere. It's in the corporate America, it's in Hollywood. It's everyone not releasing things immediately. It's always held in for a long time and unfortunately eats away at people until they finally speak up about situations that they've gone through. Why is that? Several issues that explain why that is. One issue is that the accused getting canceled, the people that are being called out get canceled for just a little bit, and then a month or so passes, maybe half a year, maybe a full year. You turn around and they all come right back into the scene where they were. Which is why it's so frustrating a month ago when a group of people were playing with a Splat safety banned for life person in a plus server VC where they're just playing Mario Kart. And somebody pointed out, like, hey, why is this person banned from the Splatoon community in this server that is so heavily about the Splatoon community, you know what that sends a message to, right? All the victims of that person will look and see all the people in that VC that are hanging out with that person in a Splatoon environment and saying, oh, great. They're just letting that person back in, huh? Oh, they've just overcome all the horrible things that person did. We're just moving past that. Great. That's great. That's one of the reasons why people don't often speak out about certain situations. There's several more, obviously. Another reason, though, is the fear of not being believed of their concerns, or their concerns not being taken seriously or just flat out dismissed. Which is probably how the person felt who reached out to Jay D when they went to her and said, hey, this is the situation I went through. What am I talking about? Well, if you haven't been paying attention to Twitter, good for you. But we're going to talk about things anyways. And no, just because something is uncomfortable to talk about, and some of the stuff kind of is, we still got to talk about it. You can't just brush off things by being like, hey, Twitter is tough today. Here's a picture of a puppy. Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. But we don't move forward as a community unless we have difficult conversations. So even though as some things might be hard to read, we go through it anyways. It's what we should be doing. So somebody approached Jay D and said, hey, this person that is in the Splatoon community is actually not who you think they are. This is who they were when they were part of the Mario Kart community in 2018. Kind of a serious situation when you read through it and you look through the screenshots, and the person, Canon Cinerace, admitted to, hey, all the stuff here is true. Here's my side of the story kind of thing. That is troubling, obviously, as we start to learn more about people. The longer the scene goes on, we learn more about other people. But the one thing I want to point out in the document that was released, I believe that was on Friday, that's really concerning to me, is that they mention in the document that this situation was brought to Splat Safety in 2021 and nothing was done about it. For a full year, it was brought to somebody's attention within Splat Safety, and nothing happened. So that is the question of the day that we're going to be discussing here. What the hell is going on with Splat Safety? Apparently, after that question was kind of brought up on Friday, the next day, Splat Safety comes out with this whole new set of tweets. We've banned this person indefinitely for 3 years, this person for 18 months, this other person we're banning for an indefinite amount of time. It seems weird that they would all of a sudden just start banning people left and right the day after everybody was like, hey, how come we're not coming out? And how come Splat Safety's not doing anything about this? Are they dead and gone? Do they even exist anymore? Are they real? And as we found out, no, they still do exist. They've just been in dormant until somebody pointed it out. Now, they pointed out that these bans were coming out on Saturday anyways. I take that for what you will. It seems very coincidental that it would just magically be that day. But I believe there is going to be more information released in the coming weeks, is the tweet that I saw from Kraken Mayer, the only public person from Splat Safety. And obviously with this going around, there was a lot of criticism being tweeted out, especially with Splat Safety not really doing anything public since 2021, a full year ago, basically around the time Riptide was happening with the whole in-game TV situation. So let's discuss this criticism. And before we get into the criticism, I want to give some full disclosure. Yes, we do not know who is on the Splat Safety Council because most of the members are anonymous. And if you were wondering if I am on the Splat Safety Council, I will answer that question for you right now. No, I have never been a part of the Splat Safety Council. I have never even applied to be a part of it, and I probably never will. If I were to be on the Safety Council, though, I will let people know, full transparency. I will be open about that. I won't be trying to be secretive about that kind of thing, and I don't blame other people who do. You'll understand in a minute why when I explain that. But I just want to give full context for this. For everything I'm about to say about Splat Safety, I have absolutely zero connection to it whatsoever. I guess if I was anonymous, I could have just lied to you right there, so shake it for your will if you think you trust me or not. The first issue that people were kind of bringing up as an issue with Splat Safety in general is that some of the bans they do are private while others are public. Well, what about the people you're banning private-wise? Isn't that kind of a big deal that we don't know who has privately been banned from tournaments unless you're one of the signatories? What if you're a brand new tournament or you don't want to be a signatory of Splat Safety? You want to know who the bad people in the community are and you want to ban them. How do you do that? How do I know who's on that list? Public bans versus private bans, they both have cons and pros to them. And there's many different examples that we have to point to that support the pros and cons. Let's look at let's look at how private bans are done, because this is as Low Ink or as IPL has talked about before. Private bans are something that we've always done at IPL. The pros of having a private ban is that it prevents this public shaming kind of thing that could be going on. We're not just dragging out this person into front of everybody and be like, this is what they did. This is what they said to somebody. Everybody, let's laugh at this person. That's not exactly what's going on right there, but that's kind of the case. Especially, it depends on what's going on. If it's somebody just getting banned for being just a straight up a-hole to other people, which we've done before, is it fair that it's been done in a private way? Well, when it's just one organization doing it, and as long as everybody is aware of what's going on within that organization, I think it's fine. The problem, though, with private bans is if this person who gets banned wants to take it to Twitter, all of a sudden they get to control the narrative. Case in point, what happened last week when Rhythm got banned from SOS only of IPL? The information got twisted and distorted. It was the narrative that because Rhythm had ratioed a team on Twitter a couple of times, aka just trash talking them, that they got banned from the tournament. I am here to tell you guys, if you didn't see Sky's tweet, one of the head TOs for SOS, that came out at the same time as the controversy of the Rhythm thing came out, that is not true. If you have told or tweeted about TOs are banning people because of trash talking, guess what? You helped contribute to spreading misinformation. Congratulations to you. The actual correct answer is yes, there was some trash talking going on, which is totally fine. However, what you can't do is change your IGNs in a tournament to impersonate that same team that you've been trash talking. At that point, it's not trash talking anymore, and it crosses this line into this really weird levels of you are letting this team live rent-free in your head, and you are not letting it go. That is when it crosses a pretty obvious line. Now, if you have that context in mind and you still disagree with the ban, that's a good thing. Criticism is always something that is going to be allowed against TOs as long as it is warranted. However, since Rhythm is the one who was able to get the information out first and not the TOs that did the ban, the narrative is now switched from, oh, I impersonated this team in this other tournament, to being, nope, I am now I've just got banned because of trash talk. And it's because the other team. So it's a bad look on IPL. It's a bad look on Cherry Limeade, who had absolutely nothing to do with the situation. That's the issue with private bans. You have to just hope the other person doesn't do anything to distort the information, and then it becomes public and you have to speak out about it to protect other people who had nothing to do with it. So that's an issue with private bans. Public bans, on the other hand, allow for more transparency. We are banning this person for this amount of time for this issue that they committed. I am in support of those things up to a certain point. The problem with public bans is everyone gets to weigh in, and everyone all of a sudden becomes judge and jury of the decision that you've already passed. Again, criticism is a good thing, but do we need everybody's opinion on how long this person should be banned based off of this decision of this org, knowing that the public statement still isn't going to provide all of the facts that were looked at by these select individuals that issued the ban? It still leaves some information behind. And if you screw up, oh boy, you are going to screw up bad. Remember when Dapple Productions banned all of Madhouse from all of their events just because one of their coaches was banned from Splat Safety? Well, people didn't like that, came out pretty heavily in defense of Madhouse in that situation, to where Dapples had to issue a correction the next day and said, no, we're not actually going to ban. We realized you guys didn't like that. Oops, my bad. Only for Madhouse to compete as the Elite Four in the Nintendo tournament and the whole smurfing situation and all that stuff. The match fixing to try to win some freaking gaming chairs. So yes, the public versus private bans, I think in your mind, when you are an organization, it has to be a little bit of a mix of both. Public when it's warranted, when it's a major case that needs to come out. Hey, this person did something really not cool. We're banning them for this amount of time, and you guys need to be aware of that. When it's private stuff, more like code of conduct level 1, maybe borderline level 2 offenses, that doesn't need to be public everywhere. Everybody needs to know about it. Just that one person. Hey, take a week off. You'll be back next week. Hey, why don't you not play in this tournament for a month and we'll let you back? Now, does that list need to be shared with everybody? That's a question Splat Safety probably needs to come up with or find an answer to, because there's going to be a lot of discussion going on in Twitter that's already like that. But I think a mix of both is what Splat Safety has been doing. And as long as you're consistent with things, with your public bans being consistent the way they are, I think it's all right. And for the most part, every Splat Safety ban that they've done has always been consistent. The only negative feedback people have given to Splat Safety whenever they issue a ban publicly is, well, where did you guys go? Like, well, why are you guys here? Or more importantly, who are you guys even? Because we just know Crack and Mare, and that's the other issue with Splat Safety, is that all the members on the council, or most of the members on the council, are anonymous. Issue is, if you were to submit a case to Splat Safety, you have no idea who you are issuing a issue to. Now, why would somebody want to be anonymous? Why would we allow people to be anonymous in these instances when they're going to be on a council dictating the safety of the entire community? Let me ask you guys this question. Which one of you wants to be on the Splat Safety Council? Raise your hand. Nobody. Exactly. Nobody wants to be on this thing unless you are somebody who thinks Camp Triggerfish is a map we should be using in competitive. You're the only person crazy enough to actually want to be here and be a public face about this thing. If you are somebody, and keep this in mind, if you are on the Splat Safety Council, you are dealing with literally the worst people in this entire community. The worst people. Some people could possibly be criminal with some of the stuff that they're pulling off here. Would you want your face out there knowing that you're only dealing with the absolute worst human beings that we have in this community? I don't know about you guys. I wouldn't. And look, I'm a fully grown man. I'm 32 years old. I got some guns on me. I've seen you guys at lands. You guys are all toothpicks. None of you scare me physically. But am I going to put myself out there against the most disgusting human beings we got in this scene with knowing that I have a family, might know like the city I live in? Like, nobody wants to be like, it's understandable that there's, for their safety, that being anonymous is an important thing. However, that doesn't mean you're not allowed to be critical of the fact that there are people that you are on the safety council and you have no idea who they are. You don't know if they passed, what kind of background check they passed, how thoroughly they were looked into, and what they've done since they've been on the council. You don't know any of that. The person you could be complaining about could be giving a report about. For all you know, you could be giving the report to the person who you're trying to, the accused, I guess you could say. So yes, that is a bit of a concern, and you don't know who's making decisions on those rulings. So yes, I get both sides of the argument. Again, I think you can get away with having anonymous members on your council, though, if a couple of them, probably more than just Kraken, are out there and can answer questions and give more feedback on things specifically. And B, you're consistent with what you're doing. Again, if your rulings are always consistent, and then all of a sudden you get this one ruling where it's like, hey, this ruling, traditionally we would give a year ban here, but all of a sudden we're just going to give like a 2-month ban or just a warning for that. Then all of a sudden that sets off red flags like, whoa. Why are you showing favoritism in this particular case, but in not that case? So as long as you are consistent with your rulings, then I think you can get away with the anonymous thing, and we can keep the Splat Safety Council members safe while also still being fair to the process as a whole. Has Splat Safety been consistent with their rulings? That's for you to decide. And it's hard to decide that when we haven't really seen them do anything in the past year or so. These are the things that Splat Safety needs to heavily consider. And I hope they're going to be addressed in a statement at some point, because it has been hinted at that there is going to be a statement coming out eventually. But the question that we all have been asking at this point, maybe not all, I don't want to implant ideas into your guys' brains, but the question people have been asking is, do we even need Splat Safety? If the orgs have been handing out bans for the past year on their own accord, without Splat Safety, why do we even need them? A couple of things. One, Splat Safety keeps everybody uniform across the board. This person's not just banned for 2 months at Dapples, but they're banned for 1 month at IPL, and they're not banned at all from MIT. No, everybody across the board agrees 8 months right here, right there. We don't need to go, hey, Dapples, what do you guys think? We think this. What do you guys think? No, it's the Splat Safety says this, and we as the signatories say, all right, we can all get on board with that. Number two, it also keeps everyone aware of the major rule breakers in this community. I don't know about you guys, but I don't know everybody in this scene. I don't know everyone across the board. And sometimes as IPL, we don't find out about things until somebody DMs us this. Hey, this person playing in your tournament, just so you know, they did this and that, and they did this in Dapple Productions tournament, or they did that in Launch Point. Like, I have no idea who that even is, but thanks for sending that to me. We'll look into that. When it's all going to one direct source and then that information gets spread to the signatories, it's a lot easier for things to be, everybody to be on the same page and be kept in the loop about things. But if you think that we don't need Splat Safety, or what I've seen a lot of people say is, oh, it needs to be replaced. We need something new. We need to fix this. Okay. What? What are we replacing it with? Okay, you got everybody riled up. We're all on the same page. We got our pitchforks. We got our torches. We're gonna burn this place down and we're gonna build it back up. Okay, what are you gonna build back up? What are you replacing it with? Nobody's offered a single answer to that. Yes, we recognize there are problems with Splat safety, but not one person has offered a solution to what is going to replace it. Not one. Okay, but aren't you just going to make a new org that has a code of conduct and has people in, let's call it a committee, that are on this board that are going to decide bans and are going to disperse it out to the organizations? Isn't that just Splat safety that you're trying to create there? How do we know this new thing that you're creating is not going to fall into the same problems and pitfalls that the current Splat safety fell into? Like, what are the fail safes to make sure that the issues of Splat safety seemingly falling apart for an entire year and then coming back out of nowhere isn't going to happen again? Those are the questions you need to be answering, and I'd rather people do that than just say, we need to ruin the system. We are so good at pointing out problems in this community without ever offering a single doggone solution. The solution, in my opinion, is Splat safety is already here. We need to start holding them more accountable. We let them go a whole year with seemingly not doing anything, at least in the public eye. And that's kind of on us. That's definitely on me. I haven't talked about Splat safety hardly at all since I did the episode talking about them when they screwed up the slimy thing. Well, they didn't screw up the slimy thing. The in-game TV situation, calling that out. Now look, criticism keeps everyone accountable. Criticism is important, especially for TOs, especially for orgs, especially for Splat safety. Criticism is very important. There is no TO that is above criticism, and all these people proclaiming to be leaders in this community, myself included, need to be held to a higher standard. That's just the way it is. And if none of us can handle it, then as they say, you got to get out of the kitchen and let somebody else do it. Is all the criticism fair? No, criticism isn't always fair. Case in point, I've seen several tweets about this, basically stating, well, they banned someone for trash talking, but they won't ban a pedophile. Like, what in the world kind of stretched logic is that? Where did that come from? You think we let in people like that? No, of course not. Absolutely not. I don't know where. I think that's a good tweet that's a great line, but it's based off a total fabrication. That's absolutely not true. As I pointed out, people don't get banned for trash talking. Heck, I've trash talked people all the time and will continue to do so. It's fun. But to make that kind of stretch comparison, I don't think that's fair. That's a wild thing that is 100% not fair. But informed criticism is fair and is important. I can't speak for Splat safety, but for IPL ourselves, look, we're going around telling everyone we're the biggest organization because we are. We have the biggest monthly tournament in low ink. We have a weekly tournament that goes over the limit of teams that can sign up for it every single week. It has to close registration early on Wednesday in a tournament series where we're usually seeing people sign up like 10 minutes before registration even ends. We have SAC now, which is going strong. IPL's getting a part of LANs now. We host the biggest international tournament in the world in Super Jump. If we're going to put ourselves out there like that, we have to be able to take criticism, and we need people to criticize us so that we can continue to grow and get better. It's an important relationship between the organizations and the players. You can't just sit here and say, well, we're above everything, because we're not. We're not above everything, but at the same time, we still have to be held to a higher standard. You look at some of the organizations of the past, they couldn't handle the criticism and they folded, or they didn't listen to the criticism and they imploded. We got to learn from that. However, Splat safety is in that same exact boat. And it is fair to say that the one thing Splat safety needs from us is our trust. And that's not something we just give out. We can't just sit here and give out trust to Splat safety. It has to be earned. Trust is something that is very difficult. It takes a long time and it's very fragile. And I don't blame people for looking at what Splat safety has not done in the past year and come to the conclusion that I've lost trust in this organization. And I'm not telling you that you need to start trusting Splat safety again. It's on them to earn it back. But when we look at where the scene is heading, where we want to go, where we look at the situations where we don't know who else is in this community that has committed atrocities. We don't. There are so many other people that have done things months ago, maybe a year ago, that somebody wants to talk about. That somebody, it's eating them up and they want to get it out. And they don't feel comfortable getting it out because they see how the state of the scene is right now. That is not acceptable. We need Splat safety to re-earn the trust of everybody, and that's on them to do. We'll be keeping an eye on this story going forward because they said they might release a statement in a couple of weeks. It seems like they're back now, which is good. But we got a long way to go. Acro Run, I want to give you rewind the VOD about 30 minutes. That'd be the answer to your question. Hey, I could probably go on a long rant here, but we got to get the spoon. And before we can get the spoon, we got to get through the weekly recap. SOS number 83 was won by Sayonara, or Sayo, as you can just say as a commentator. What's up, guys? Chase 27 back with another video, finished in second place, and Desire finished in third place. Hey, as I mentioned earlier, SOS is getting 40 teams signed up for their tournament. They get so many teams signed up that 8 teams have to be put on standby, and they have to cut off that and say, we can't accept any more standby teams. What I find interesting, and I'll talk to Spoon about this in a second, is that people are always trying to reinvent SOS for some reason, when the numbers will tell you that it's just as good as it's going to be. It's a Wednesday night tournament. We all got work and school in the morning. We can't stay up all night with more than 32 teams. You're not trying to reinvent SOS. You're trying to create a new tournament. That's what you need. Hammerhead was won by Bazooka Squad. Mako Bracket was won by Squeak and the Babes. And Lantern Bracket was won by Inksync. Lobster Crops Fire was on Friday and was won by the Bouncers, aka was the old FT win, I believe. Kyo, Shaq, Bursty, and Biscuit. Second place went to GTA, which was Goss Thunder, Boy, and Dokumu. Third place went to Sayonara. 11 teams played in this Friday night VDS tournament, where you had to at least, I think you had to use one player who used VDS. You can't use CDS because it's not a thing yet. But VDS is a nice, VDS is pretty nice right now. We've been using VDS in Destiny Troops comps. We haven't used that in a long time. But VDS is pretty nice. So Lobster Crossfile continuing to promote Dually Squelcher propaganda. Splat a Little 6, won by Bangkok Esports, aka IPS, Evan Twig, and Swen. Second place went to Slow Start, which was a pickup team, which I think they changed their IGN, so I didn't really know who they were all exactly, but they were pretty good, obviously. Third place went to Unlimited Woomy United. Hey, Splat a Little used to run a skill cap tournament, and I convinced them through the Popcast to take the cap off and just become an open invite tournament, and this is the second time they did an open invite tournament, and they broke their own record. 34 teams signed up for this. That's the most teams ever to play in a Splat a Little tournament, regardless of the skill level. And I told y'all, quit making skill cap tournaments, make open invite tournaments. If you build it, they will come. 34 teams signed up for Splat a Little 6. Atta boy, Splat a Little, I see you. Squid Junction number 29 was won by GTA 6, which is the same team I mentioned that finished in second place in Lobster Crossfire the day before. The team that finished in second place was Cookies and Cream, which is my favorite flavor of ice cream. And third place went to Good Morning. Good morning, good morning. It was announced after Squid Junction that 20XX was going to be taking place in the coming days in October. So they pulled the low ink card of watch the stream. We got an announcement after it. Good chunk of teams playing in Squid Junction. You'd like to see even more play in this classic bi-weekly double elimination tournament for North America on Saturday nights. And congratulations in coming to the 30th edition of Squid Junction, whenever that's going to be held. The Rams outlast the Cardinals 20-12. The Chiefs somehow found a way to lose to the Indianapolis Colts 20-17. And the Steelers are sticking with their horrible quarterback instead of their rookie. They lose 17-29 to the Browns. And that was your weekly recap. Sponsored by Fry, who, mark my words, is never going to win a Splatfest. It's not going to happen. I made the mistake of picking the correct answer, which was Grub, and somehow Shiver's answer destroyed everybody's, and it just became Big Man versus Shiver, and Grub got absolutely nothing. Fry gets the short end of the stick, and I am not picking a Fry team forever until Fry actually wins one. So as sad as that is, we'll make Fry the official sponsor of this week's episode of the Weekly Recap. It's a damn shame. It is an absolute shame. So, it's time for the scary part. Let's see how scuffed we can make this. So hold on now. Hold on with us, folks. We're going to make this work. Carrot showed me exactly how this works. And I think that's going to work. I think that is going to absolutely work. Hey, that's good enough for me. And I think Carrot's going to roll with that as well. So welcome in to the Popcast. Someone I'm very excited about. Co-founder of Ink TV. Co-founder of Black and Spoon, also known as BNS. And somebody who's making the grave mistake of returning to the competitive scene after seemingly finding a way out. Welcome in, Spoon, to the Popcast. Welcome in.
Hello.
How you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm actually off of work today for a couple of days, so I'm just enjoying myself, looking at all this Twitter discourse and having a good time, just drinking the tea.
Yes, there's a lot of Twitter tea to be drinking nowadays. That's that's not how I choose to spend my day off, but I can't fault you for doing that. Spoon, did you just open up like the kitchen cabinet one day and said, that's it right there?
No. So pretty honest answer, and I've said it before, I literally stole my name like 20 years ago. I was watching a StarCraft competitive stream.
Okay.
And Tasteless and Artosis do their GSL cast. Like, this is back in like when StarCraft was like just starting out to be popular, and they used to read questions off of users. And there was someone who was named Cryptic Spoon who gave an answer, and it was awesome. Like, it was just such a hilarious segment. And then that just became my name because I literally couldn't find another username ever. So someone just did it as a throwaway. And so I just kept that name, and like no one's ever replicated it. I've never found another Cryptic Spoon. So, whatever.
Have you I know of a knife in the scene. Have you come across a fork before?
Yeah, they're all me.
Fair enough.
I've had Ominous Fork as my other alt, and then Curious Knife. So, I stick with the cutlery. I stay on brand.
I watch, you mentioned StarCraft. I watch Artosis, mainly because his chat is hilarious and is constantly roasting him and whatnot. Do you watch like any of their, like any Artosis and Tasteless like commentary, especially when they do like the English broadcasts of, I forget whatever tournament they normally do, but
Yeah,
they're really
so
entertaining to watch, even if you don't know what's going on.
yeah, so that was what I originally got into on esports was actually from StarCraft. So it was Tasteless and Artosis back in GSL like I don't know like I don't even know how long ago it was so long ago, but I remember like they used to play K-pop before the streams and that's how I started listening to K-pop was because of that. So
Fair enough. I've had I tried to count it today. I think I've had over 35 guests onto the podcast before. Believe this is the first time where I've had someone on who is technically older than me, although by a couple of months. So my question to you is, being a dinosaur in this community, shouldn't you be playing Call of Duty right now instead of a kids
uh
game like Splatoon?
well, actually, to be fair, I do. I play Valorant all the time. I have
Okay.
like 3,000 hours into Valorant. So I do play it, but I guess you could say I'm back because Splatoon 3 just brought some charm back into me and made me want to, I guess, play more. And it's fun because I think Splatoon 3 brought a lot of Splatoon 1 players back, like friends that I made like 7 years ago who are back, who like messaged me and they were like, "You're going to get the game?" So it's exciting in that way because it just felt like I picked up where I left off from like the competitive side, not the tournament side, like just picking up with friends that I talked to like 5 years ago who our lives are completely different now, but we still hang out, right? So it's been pretty cool and it's been, I guess, exciting and a nice change of pace.
Yeah, we've had some old Splatoon 1 teams sign up for Low Ink the last month, and I had to explain to them as like, look, just because you haven't played the game in 5 years doesn't mean you get to beat up on newbies or lower level teams. You were still really good back in the day, but I think most of them kind of understood that. Speaking of back in the day, now most of my audience probably joined the scene within the last couple of years or so, and they wouldn't know what Ink TV is or was. Could you just explain what Ink TV was?
Yeah, so I guess I'll start from the beginning. Is that Ink TV didn't actually start as Ink TV. Ink TV just started as myself and Blake, or Black, if anyone doesn't know him. And basically, this is back in Splat 1, and we were just kind of tired of running the same tournaments over and over again. And in Splatoon 1, if no one knows, Kraken and Bubbler were like the most broken things. By the way, can I swear on this cast or no?
Go right ahead. I don't care.
Okay, I'll keep it to a
You
minimum.
just be
Uh,
you. Let's go with that.
so we were like, yeah, these are not great. So we kind of said, well, we were a little bit older because even when Splatoon 1 came out, I was in my 20s, right? So I was still older than a lot of the community at that point in time. And like you said, now we're both dinosaurs at 32. But
Right.
um we were older, so we felt like we could maybe start doing things, and we're like, hey, like I didn't like how tournaments were run, so let's start running a weekly tournament. Or just, it didn't even start off as a weekly, just started off as a one-off to be like, let's see if we can do this. So we started Black and Spoon, and we just did it in our own style of how we kind of ran our streams. Like our personal streams were just us shit talking everyone. That was all we did. like like we were just some old guys like having fun together. So we just cast it in that same style because that's kind of what our viewers liked on our personal streams. And that's what became BNS. And then as we kept running those as like trials and testing new things and trying out different themes and being creative, that's when we started getting more into like the, okay, maybe we're starting to grow people and add people onto this. So like maybe let's not make it Black and Spoon anymore because it's not us. It's not just us. It's a team now. So we wanted to embody that like it's not just us. It's not just Blake and Spoon. There's like other people. There's Jordan. There's Devin. There's Jack. There's Didia. There's like a bunch of people who kept joining, right? So like we didn't feel comfortable keeping it as BNS, and that's kind of how Ink TV started. Was just because we were angry and we thought we could do things better than everyone. That's literally it.
The last BNS ran, was it 2020 or 2019 when that one? Like it came back as a ladder series for a little bit.
Yeah, I will be completely honest. I don't even know when it finished because I think BNS still ran even after I left.
Oh,
So Ink
okay.
TV was still running even while I was technically checked out. I came back for like one big event, and then I just kind of left altogether. I left Splatoon entirely.
Well, even though I guess the point I'm getting to is BNS hasn't run in about 3 years or so, but it's
Mhm.
still like the legacy of BNS is still being felt by people today. Whenever there is a weekly tournament, people are always like, "Well, BNS used to do this, so why can't they just do what BNS did?" And things like that. Well, first off, you guys had a prize pool as well, which for a weekly tournament in today's version of competitive Splatoon is so bizarre. Like so it's like, is it, are all the comparisons to BNS like fair? Like, do you get insulted that some people try to compare your tournament to something modern day?
No, I mean, like, I'm always flattered when someone likes what we've done, right? I mean, like, how can you not? I have a massive ego, Pop Gun, okay, and I think a lot of people do. So, like, if someone's telling me that I did a great job, I'm like, yes, validate me more. I love it. Just keep giving me that positivity, you know. Um, but that being said, so just to piggyback off of like the money stuff is like after taking time off and coming back and looking at other scenes and other esports and stuff like that, I think that it was a detriment for us to do weekly prize pools. um I don't want to say that it set us up for failure because I don't think it did in that way, but I think it gave an expectations to players that was like really not fair to other TOs, because I think that we like people loved the series so much for things around BNS, and people are just trying to recreate the not that TOs are trying to recreate the magic. Players are trying to like recreate the magic, but like you can't recreate it because it was like a microcosm of event of like a perfect amount of things happening. Like my personal opinion on it is I think that reason why people loved BNS so much was not because of the tournament format, was not because of the band specials. I mean, it might have started as that as like a talking point, but I really think what brought it together was like the people behind it and the personalities in it, right? Like we had different people on the cast, we got new people on, we let them like laid back and just talk how they wanted to talk and had a cast over things. And like some people were pissed that we didn't talk about like the matches, but if they were boring matches, like we're just gonna let people have a good time. It was about the viewers more than it was about the players. And I think that that is endearing to players as well because they're viewers too, right? They want to see what we're talking about. So they were more invested into it because we cared more about the viewers and ourselves and just having a good time. And that's what it was, right? Everyone had a good time. And I think that that was the formula or the special sauce, so to speak, why people revere BNS so much. It's like everyone just had fun. We were very strict with rules to make sure that there was like no debate and no negativity, except for when the casters were negative to players, but that's totally acceptable. And I think that it just created a positive environment, if you could call it that, where like everyone left feeling good. And I think that's why it's revered.
Have you seen, when I played in BNS, that the commentary for the stream, that's kind of what I took away from it as well, because my team would always go 1-5, so we'd be eliminated in time to watch Top Cut anyways. But yeah, it was always like falling to sleep on Friday night watching BNS commentary. Is there anything? But there's nothing that like that is even close to that kind of style anymore. And now it's all just straight, like you got your play by play guy, you got your color guy, and you're focused on what you're kind of seeing on the screen there. Is there anything that you've seen that comes close to replicating what BNS was from a stream standpoint?
No, but I think that's a bigger problem with Splatoon that might bring a lot of your conversation is I think there's not a lot of personalities now, as there was back in the day. I think and this is not in relation to like the rhythm situation that everyone was talking about. Like, I don't care about that stuff, but like, I think that trash talking is more frowned upon than it was back in the day, and that's kind of a bad thing for the scene because like you want to start talking points, you want to create like that. I don't want to say like drama because it's not really drama. It's about the game, right? Like it's not personal things. It's just the game drama, right? And that's good for viewership. That's good for creating storylines. That's good for creating personalities in games. And I think that that's lacking from what we had. because like we created storylines or segments with players and people wanted to watch to see what we would say about them, right? Or they would want to watch to see the stupid shit that we would say that would make someone laugh, right? So we kind of made our own personalities. And in a way, like Blake, myself, Leo, who's on Walkman, like everyone started to know us because we created those personalities. So I would say that you could try and recreate a BNS, but it would take a lot of time to get that traction because you'd have to find the people who have those personalities who is like acceptable to be inappropriate, if that makes sense. Not that we were like mega inappropriate, but like uh, to say that I'm not a controversial figure on a lot of things is like an understatement, right? So but like that's why I was loved and hated. And I think that everyone's trying to be that middle point and trying to filter themselves enough to like always have this fan base that doesn't exist. And I think that that's kind of like my overall thoughts on like a lot of that stuff right now.
Well, I mean that's a fair take to have for sure. It's hard to get even consistent commentators going for anything, much less for the audience to kind of learn more about them. And yeah, there definitely are restricted, maybe because organizations are more, I guess, corporate nowadays than maybe what they were back in Ink TV. But you talk about like the storylines for things. One of the major gripes with people in the scene now is I just listed off teams that won Squid Junction. Grand Theft Auto versus Cookies and Cream. Like if I just say that, you don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But those are actual competitive players. Like, can you, in this pickup era that we're in, can you develop storylines?
Yeah, so these are things that I have a lot of thoughts on right now. I think that the reason why you're seeing a pickup period is that there's nothing to play for. And when I mean that there's nothing to play for, I don't mean it in the sense of like, well, there's no money on the line. Because, like, let's be real. No one in Splatoon is playing the game for money right now. Even when we had massive prize pool, no one was like, let's play for the money, right? Like, be realistic here, right? People play it for the ego and they play it for the, uh, to say that they're the best. And they want to be shown off that they're the best. And I think that, at least from everything I watched prior VODs of like a bunch of different production companies and everything. And even back when we were, right? I think 2 years, 5 years is a long time, right? So I think from when we ended to when it began, it just feels like everything's still the same. So I think there needs to be a push from a tournament side, since the players don't seem to want to do it, to create more of an investment of those teams and create a deeper story within those teams. And that'll create people wanting to keep teams instead of just bouncing around. Because right now there's no incentive. Why should someone stay on a team if they get no recognition, they get literally no viewership, they literally get nothing to show that they are the best? Well, there's no reason to stick around on a team. Just have fun and play around and have different like free agents running everywhere. So you kind of need a big thing that'll keep teams together and wanting to work towards the next thing. You have to keep how do you say, like you have to keep putting that line of treats out, you know?
I've had Shaq on the podcast before earlier this year, and he kind of, as a top level player, he kind of echoed some of the things you're saying right now. It's yeah, having a prize pool is nice, but the number one thing that Shaq was interested in playing in a tournament is what is the production level of the tournament? Like, are we going to be able to get our brand out there to a wider audience? That's what the main draw for them was, at least at that time. So I think there's a lot of truth to that, for sure. And I like that you say that you feel like you regret having a prize pool for BNS because of how it maybe spoiled players or something.
Yeah, I mean, so I wouldn't say it's spoiled. Like, I'm happy that we did it at the time. I love BNS. I love the whole vibe of it. It's why we created it, right? It's because we just wanted a place to lay back and have a good time and watch Splatoon, right? But what I mean by that is because BNS got so popular and it had a prize pool consistently, and the major tournaments weren't doing anything bigger than what BNS did, even from our perspective, other than like the Invitational, right? Like there wasn't a whole lot that's different from a major than a weekly, other than just saying that it's a major. We call it a major because it's one, right? It
Yeah.
exists because we say so. Tell me what the fucking difference is between a major and a weekly. There's zero difference, right? And I think that that's the big problem, right? We made BNS a weekly, so it's important, is just as important as a quarterly or a yearly because there's nothing that changed anything. So I think that there was never a downtime. Um, so like there was never that big event to really get people excited and build that like team storyline, being like these guys competing in weeklies that like didn't matter. And then now we're getting to this quarterly event that's massive and like we need to work towards this, right? And that was kind of something that's lacking. Um, so yeah, if BNS didn't have a prize pool, I think that it could be reinvested to quarterlies or yearlies or other bigger events that would build that storyline from those weeklies as minor tournaments.
I don't want to harp too much on the prize pool just for the points that you kind of just brought up right there, but it's obviously something that keeps getting mentioned by people that might not actually be top level as to why we aren't getting more money into these tournaments. I was wondering if you could dispel this rumor that was floating around. I don't remember when this was, but it was back whenever people were criticizing SOS for existing yet again. And it was BNS was brought up, and it was said that the prize pool for BNS was 100% funded by the community. Like people would just donate Patriot, like random people just donate $1 and $2 here and there, and that made up the entire prize pool. Is there any truth to that?
It's like 50-50. I would say, and I think that we've talked about this on your stream, is that there are definitely a couple of consistent contributors that went through it to give us money to fund a prize pool. And we did end up having like a Patreon and other things and like Twitch subscriptions that ended up making that weekly thing in the future, right? But when it started out, it was definitely like a couple of people constantly reinvesting. And I wouldn't lie if I told you that like we didn't invest some of our own money into it at some points, just cause, right? Just because we like doing it. So
If you're just joining us and you're wondering who this person is, it's Spoon of BNS. Spoon. Somebody again. This is awesome. That when I made this podcast, I didn't think I'd be getting on people that didn't recognize that I played in their tournaments at some point and sucked, and now all of a sudden you're on here talking to me. What a glow up for me in particular. You tweeted out recently. Hot take, but I feel like competitive analysis in Splatoon is just lacking overall. Not just from the teams at a high level, but casting and VOD analysis. What could you expand a little bit more on that? I'm assuming you weren't talking about just like the old BNS style or things, where maybe like you've seen some other esports and feel like it's lacking in
yeah,
Splatoon in comparison to that.
so I want to preface this by saying that like even before I think it was lacking, I think it was just acceptable because it was like 3 years ago. Does that make sense? Like when Splatoon 1 started, it was literally it still is grassroots, but like it was literally just a bunch of random people making tournaments together and we somehow got to a high production level that we did. Like that's impressive on its own, but I feel like the scene is stagnated in terms of like production and analysts and casters, and it's never grown, and we never taught, and we never educated further. And it's just kind of, I mean, like, I don't want to like throw shade because I think people work hard, and I'm not trying to say that people don't, but I think that there's like a lack of direction and like someone who like really pushes. And like not to be an ego again, but like that's what I did on Ink TV was like I was that person who was like, what can we do to make this cooler every time? It was always like trying to push the limits and not because we wanted more viewers. I just had this innate thing in my brain that I needed to do it to be better because that's what I cared about. I cared about production more than I care about the game and I still do. So it's one of those things. And then to like kind of bring it back to like the whole analyst thing is that I've played other games, I've watched other esports, and I think that we ride the coattails of Smash too hard, and they're different genres of games, but we put them as Nintendo. This is the shooter. It's a fucking shooter. We need to put the analysis and the casting as if it's a shooter, not as if it's a Nintendo game. So I think that there needs to be more. Well, I know that you mentioned that there's a problem with getting casters, but like emphasis on putting um, an actual color commentator and an analyst together. maybe having an analyst desk to break down things that happened in the game. What about if we have a host? What about if we have interviews? What about if we have player segments? Why don't we talk about the macro game of Splatoon? I feel like everyone talks about weapon comps and what's a good weapon, and does FLC approve of this comp, right? Like, one, have your own analysis, and two, like actively come up with like a macro level. I want to understand why a team is good. And just saying that they frag out harder or their weapon comp is better is such a cop out way of explaining the game to me. Tell me why people are better at taking 2v2s. Tell me why the E leader is good in this position and how it can pressure other teams to contain a zones push or something, right? Like, I've never heard any of that analysis breakdown from anyone in this game. Why is there no epic pen and a crazy whiteboard and someone writing on a mini map? We have replay codes. Do that shit now, you know? Like, there's loads of things you can do to break down that analysis. And I think that we don't do a good enough job of explaining why people are good at what they do.
And that's is this why you're such a big fan of Magic? Because he is one of the best, if not the best, in my opinion, from the color commentary side of things, not just the play-by-play. But it's, I mean, honestly, he's kind of a unicorn in this community from that standpoint. Whenever somebody joins or they start, there's a lot of people who have interest in getting into commentary. And when they first do what they just do play by play, it's just, oh, the Inzap shoots their weapon. They're moving forward. They grab a clam. They get shot. Now, okay, like, yeah, the audience sees that. We don't need that kind of play by play, but that's typically what you see from somebody starting off. And your kind of point of, well, there's no direction kind of thing. It's hard to teach somebody how to do color commentary. It's hard to teach. You can't like teach them what to say specifically. But since there's also few people who actually do it well, there's few resources to go to try to teach people how to talk like that.
Yeah, I think that's fair, right? So let's build it, right? Like that's what we should be doing. Another thing I guess that's what I'm trying to say is like we've never built that up. There's never been proper coaching on what we should be doing. No one comes into a set with talking points about a team or talking points about what they want to come into on a casting segment. Um, there's not like little zingers. They're kind of on the fly and they're kind of cringy because they're not set up beforehand. Um, like I'm just trying to be honest here, right? Like I think that production can do a lot better job having maybe a caster coordinator or someone helping out with these events to help push that production better. And that's why I'm saying is like you don't need money for these things. You just need time and energy and someone who's like really dedicated on it. And another thing I want to bring up is on your weekly recap, right? Like this is how our train of thoughts might be different. Is you're
Okay.
talking about viewer entrance and how big it is, right? And I'm
Yes.
looking at that by going, well, what about the people watching the stream? How big is that? Because to me, the actual pull of competitive is all about the viewership. It's not about the players. The players will come if the viewership will be there, right? So whenever I see that, I'm like, how are the viewership numbers? And that's my only concern when I think about these things. So I think like if you're looking at it from players, that's great, but the players will always be there, as long as you're not being like a horrendous human being. And we should be focusing on viewership and how to push marketing and how to push commentary and how to make the product more digestible for casual viewers and how to make it more digestible and acceptable for competitive players to feel like they have a huge ego boost when they're going into these events, or they have a reason to play, or they have a defined style because we've created that style for them. I think those are really important things.
Yeah, it's when it comes to stream, it's definitely quality over quantity. People have been pointing out Big House coming up, how there's only like 12 or so teams playing it. Yeah, but two of those teams are Sayonara and Starburst, so we're gonna get a fantastic grand finals. Yeah, there might be less teams, but the quality of teams signing up for it is way better, so it's gonna get a better viewership from that perspective. You mentioned drawing in the casuals, as we just finished a weekend bashing the casuals, both literally in the game, and then whenever any of them cried on Twitter, we all banded together and bashed them one more time just for good measure. All right, so the casual versus competitive crowd. This isn't a Splatoon only thing, but are we like driving them away a little bit maybe with how, not that we're beating them in the game, but that we're just harping so hard of them on social media?
No, I think that our overall retention accuracy to a casual community is absolutely irrelevant. I think that we don't even have enough pull at this point for it to even put a drop in the bucket on the actual casual player viewer base. And I don't think we do a good enough job right now marketing to anyone or using resources or communicating with other YouTubers or collaborators to help with tournament events to even make it matter. So like you can talk all your shit you want to casual players on Twitter. It's not going to make any difference to me.
Fair enough. Hey, I just wanted to bring that up because it's, you know, it, well, I mean, it's just every Splatfest. That's the thing. But so what you're saying is they'll still, now it's the casuals that are the main people watching this tournament, right? Or is it mostly the competitive crowd that's watching it?
So I think right now it's the competitive teams watching the own event at its
Right.
current time. Because like you're seeing like 125 viewers in a tournament or 80 viewers in a tournament, and you have to think like, oh, what? There's like maybe 220 players in that tournament that's competing. So if they're not playing right now, then they might be watching. So it's probably all the competitive community. And when you start seeing the 2K and 3K viewers on like big quarterlies, that's when you're starting to get little grasps of that casual community. And we should be focusing on ways to make the casual community more interested and make the competitive scene digestible for them. And so that's more of a production thing that should be a focus and not so much on a tournament organizing thing. I think a big problem with Splatoon is we focus a lot on how efficiently a tournament is run and not how efficiently the production is run. And I think that those are like big identifiers because production will always limit the tournament functionality. So it always has to be a payoff of this will benefit the players, this will attract the competitive community, but there'll be downtime in a tournament. So
That's I mean, those are fair points to bring up for sure. And again, I could say the same thing about production that I did with color commentary. I kind of mentioned earlier how we need more production people in the scene and how like IPL has all of them, but those people also do production work for Dapples or Little Squid League or MIT or whoever. So like that's all there is. And I remember at Riptide, behind the desk of all the little battleship that we built back there, Mizuno came back there, one of the competitive players that was there, and she was like, I want to volunteer. I want to help out with this. What can I do? And I was like, I don't know any of this. And the people that do are busy. So it's like there's interest to get into production. It's just, again, it's such a hard thing to kind of get people into. But I
I
mean,
think it's yeah. Sorry, I just want to interject on that
yeah.
really quick. Is that I think that a lot of it can come with so this is another thing I've noticed, and this is maybe just from my years of experience, but I'm sure that you might experience in IPL, and this is not throwing shade on any tournament organization because I know the things I say will have resulting effects on how people view me. But this is more my experience with Ink TV is that I think we had a lot of bloat, and I think that you can probably say that is that I'm just going to assume that maybe IPL each tournament segment is maybe run by 3 people, and then there's like 8 other people who just sit around and say that they work for whatever tournament is running. Um, so that kind of stuff happened to us too, right? And I
Uh-huh.
think that um, changing that mindset around to give people roles and organizational reasons for wanting to be in that would be a better option, right? So, like for example, what we started doing it a little bit later into Ink TV was like I became creative director because it was easier for someone to explain what I did in the company for the most part. And Blake was more back end producer because he did all the programming and all the stream events and everything. And that's how we worked as a team. And then we broke that down into like social media management. So I think if we do a better job defining what roles each person does, then you can literally take someone who's like interested, be like, hey, what are you interested in? And then plopping into like one of those people who is actively part of that scene and they can start building them and telling them to work on things. And I think that's just something that we might be lacking because that's something I felt we were lacking, right? Like I'm just taking this from experiences I've had. So
Yeah, that's this has been a great chat. This has been really good. Anything else you want to get off your chest? that you got the chance to do it?
Um, I mean, the only thing I'll say, and maybe I'll just like end this is like everyone take care of your mental health with things because I think a big reason why
Mm.
Ink TV um isn't around or was not around anymore is because I think we just got burned out. We just did too much. It was like the same couple of people doing the same tournaments every single time, and it felt like we never did it for the praise, but also at the same time, if you're doing it over and over again and not getting anything other than more drama and more like anger, then like you shouldn't be doing it, right? And I think that that's kind of where we ended. So just give yourself some breaks. Maybe don't run a weekly every single day for the rest of your life. Change it up, make it into something that you're happy with. And then one final thing I'll add is I think what some people really lack, and what I feel like I've noticed in other tournament organizations, even when I was around, is like I think people undervalue people who have a vision, like someone who really have an idea of wanting to do something and really want to do it well. Um, and again, it's not too many. That was something that I provided on Ink TV, and I think it's why you saw a lot of the things that you saw and innovations and like the Invitationals, because it was something that I wanted to create, and I just enabled the rest of my team to do it. And that's an important thing is like enabling people that you trust to do things and making a vision and executing on it are like really important things.
Yeah, for for sure. It's JPEG, my partner in crime in Low Ink, has constantly been preaching things about that, and actually hosted an episode of the Popcast where he kind of talked about TOing burnout. So I've been taking the things he says to heart, and I feel like other people have as well. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because that is definitely something that people's TOs for sure still struggle with today. I could talk to you for the rest of the day. This has been awesome. At some point, I do got to eat food though. Go ahead and plug yourself. Where can people find you, and what are you going to be up to?
So you can fall. I guess I've been streaming a little bit more Splatoon. Just with the good old boys from Splatoon 1, you know. For anyone who knows, it's like DTM, Walkman, Blake, Leo. Like these are all like pro players from Splatoon 1. So whoever's like here from 2 years ago will have no idea who they are. But I've been streaming on my channel, Cryptic Spoon, so you can follow me. You can ask me any questions. I'm usually an open book, and I'm exactly like I am on this podcast. I say what's on my mind, and I'm not afraid to say an opinion. But I never try to be rude to anyone, and I try to be as much in a safe space as possible. But I am myself, and I am who I am, right? So that's kind of what it is. Other than that, I mean, I'm sure you'll see me around the scene at some point doing things. And I'll just leave it at that. I'll leave that in obscurity for everyone.
Okay, that's we'll be keeping our eyes out for that. I don't have any hints of what that might be, but I've been hearing rumbles that there might be something coming, so I'll be keeping my eyes out for that. Spoon, thank you for coming on. This was awesome. I really appreciate everything you said, and I feel like everyone else listening live and catching it later on YouTube will appreciate it as well. So thank you for coming on again.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And I really like your podcast and I really like what Low Ink does. So I was super honored to be on this. So as much as you are there, I am also a fan too. So I appreciate it.
Boom, and that was Spoon, of the former co-founder of Ink TV and Black and Spoon, giving me some praise at the end there. That was good. That was good. That was some good talking points. Now I've said that a lot about some of the guests we've had on recently. You know, we've talked to Emil, we've talked to K-Bot, we've talked to Magic, we talked to a lot of different people. We've talked to RZA after Shine, and I've always left those feeling like these are some good things. I like it when people are honest. I mean, they just come on and just tell it like it is, and that was that was really good. Um, some exciting stuff right there. I'll definitely highlight that as an individual segment and go back and listen to that later. But yeah, that one was good. Hey, it's been a long episode. If you would like to be a part of the podcast in any way, feel free to reach out to my Twitter, my socials below, Twitter at Mr_Popgun, Discord Popgun, hashtag 5882, YouTube at Popgun25, Twitch at Popgun25, Anchor.fm/ Popgun, TikTok at Mr_Popgun. There's way too many. Just Google Popgun at this point, Splatoon, and see what comes up. If it's something else, let me know. That's kind of weird. Let's, who are we going to raid here? Let's raid Fish. We haven't done that in a while. Hey, next week we're going to preview Big House, and I'm going to try to get a special guest on for that as well. I've been backlogged of people who said they wanted to come on the podcast that I wanted to get on, and now that tournaments have kind of slowed down, we're going to find a way to get as many people on as we can. Stay safe, get vaccinated, don't do anything stupid between now and next week, and view some tournaments if you can.